Broadcasting from beautiful, tropical Vero Beach, Florida, it's Money Nation with Ed Gardner.
Good morning and welcome to Money Nation. Today's special guest is Andrea Weibrecht. He pulled off one of the most shocking skiing results in Olympic history, not once, but twice. As far as I'm concerned, it was probably one of my most funnest memories of watching him ski in the Olympics. Other great memories I've had is both the New Jersey Devils versus Detroit Red Wings, and I got to go to that game in Game 4. The Devils were heavy underdogs, and the New Jersey Devils ended up winning in Game 4. I was there for that. That was quite a game and quite a memory. But the most and probably the best sports memory ever is 1980 Olympics. USA versus Russia. Luckily, my parents were alpine gatekeepers for the race. That's where I got the hat from. I was a usher in the Olympic hockey games when I got to see that USA-Russia game. That was a great time. I know you were not even born yet, but it was an unbelievable time. I remember coming out of that arena and thousands of people were chanting USA in the streets. It was unbelievable, and it was incredible. But with that said, Andrew's 2 Olympic medals are very impressive and one of my most famous favorite moments. Andrew, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. Good to be talking.
How's Lake Placid today?
Good. You know, we're kind of waiting for that transition from spring to summer, I guess first from winter to spring. It's kind of lingering right now, but no, it's good. Things are good.
You got a mud season going on right now?
You know, we're past the mud season now. It's just waiting for it to get sunny and nice and the lakes to warm up and all that fun stuff.
You'll be out there water skiing soon, right?
Yeah, it should be. Yeah. I'm sure my brother will be. I won't be. I wait until later, but he goes as soon as the ice is off, he's out there.
I seen your brother skiing the videos. He's quite a skier.
Yeah.
Andrew, tell us about how you started with ski racing and you went through NICEF. Could you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, no, I started skiing just with my family. My parents are big skiers. That's what brought my dad up here. That's where he met my mom up here. So, my older brother got into the NICEF program, and being the younger brother, I wanted to be a part of it as well. So, you know, we lobbied the program. They let me in early at a exceptionally young age of 5 years old. So I started skiing with them at 5 and kind of went up through that program and stayed at NICEF until I was 16 and made the national team.
What was your first big races? I think you, was it Birds of Prey at Beaver Creek? Where did you really break out and tell that you were on a path of greatness?
Yeah, the Birds of Prey was definitely a big one for me. That was the first big, really the first World Cup race that I came onto the scene and had a strong result where, it was kind of like that journeyman phase to actually kind of announcing myself on that level and not really the world so much as to myself that I was able to compete and I was able to be a part of it. Prior to that, I've been fast in training and I knew that I had the skills. I just hadn't actually put it together. So that was definitely the first big one. The next the next big one again was at Kitzbühel a couple years later, where I came in. I was 11th place in the Super G. So that connected the dots between the Super G and the downhill for me, kind of rounded out my repertoire.
How did you feel going into that Birds of Prey race? Did you think you were going to do as well as you did? Or did you surprise yourself at all? Or were you pretty confident?
Yeah, no, I definitely surprised myself. I was confident going in because the previous day we had the combined event and I'd been 6th in the downhill, and they had actually moved for the proper downhill race. They moved the start down to the combined start. So it was the same. They took the top flat part, which was my weakest part of the course, out of the equation. So I started basically on the pitch, same place as the combined did. And that made me confident, knowing that I had success from that starting point. It got a little bit dicey. Anybody who's seen the run on YouTube knows it was a wild run, and I thought I'd maybe overcooked it a little bit, and so I thought I'd given away an opportunity knowing where the start was and what my chances were, but it was kind of an on the edge run that all worked out. And yeah, I mean, it was fun. I still look at it. I still watch it every once in a while.
I've been watching a couple of your Olympic runs the last couple of days. They're pretty amazing. I get a smile every time I watch them.
Yeah.
You know, you were ranked 23rd in the Super G going into 2010, Vancouver. Shockingly, won a medal. Tell us about that. Were you really confident that you were going to medal possibilities? Give us a little bit leading up into Vancouver.
Yeah. Coming into it, I'd had a strong season, but I'd never quite taken that next step. You know, I'd had a lot of races where I was 11th place or 10th, 11th, 12th, 10th, kind of knocking on the door. And when you look in the context of World Cup racing, 11th place isn't, it's usually about a half a second from the podium. So it wasn't out of the realm of possibility. I'd just never taken that next step. I'd had a couple close races where I'd been in contention, and then, I had a mistake at the end or something like that. So I knew that I was there, and I knew that I had the ability. And I remember in Vancouver, I had great training runs. And both the downhill training runs were really good for me. And I had a terrible downhill race. And because I got nervous, it was the Olympics. So I did what any 24-year-old would do. And that kind of got it out of my system. So I went into the Super G race without really a lot of, it was kind of a no fear, like let's go sort of mentality. And, I skied my run. I knew I had a good chance because I had an early start position. That was key for that race. There's going warm weather. So, I went, had some mistakes. I put the pins to it as hard as I could and came out the other side barely ahead of a lot of other guys that were really talented. I mean, I think where I was in third place, I was a couple hundredths behind Bodie Miller in second place, and I was maybe about a tenth of a second from 10th place. So,
yeah.
It was just kind of a roll of the dice, and on that particular day, I ended up on the right side of a couple hundredths of a second. Really,
it's amazing. It's so tight, like you said, 10th or third is so close, like within a second. It's crazy. Just one little error, you could go from third to 10th, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, not even one error, just one lapse of confidence, one section of the course where you don't maybe inspect it the right way or bring the right intensity to it, or bring too much intensity to it. Right. And that's the difference.
I noticed you were injured a lot. How do you think that affected your career? I know everyone gets injured. I mean, Michaela Schifrin, Lindsey Vonn, Bodie Miller, everyone gets injured. I mean, it's an extreme sport, and you're going to get hurt if you ski, basically. I'm not even sure if you know any skiers who've never been hurt. But how did that affect your career? Were you hurt average like everyone else, or how did that affect you?
Short answer, negatively. But, really, like, going back to Vancouver, I was racing that race with a pretty messed up shoulder. And so I got through the race. They did a cortisone shot, patched me up, and I had planned to go for surgery after that. And then the next race after Vancouver, we were racing in Kvifell in Norway. And I took a bad crash. It was like that post-Olympic high where I had to back up what I had done in Vancouver. And I pushed it a little bit too hard, landed in a fence, and made the shoulder injury that I had much, much worse, and also tore 2 ligaments in my ankle. So, coming off that high, it really put me at a pretty low place. And it took me a long time to get out of that cycle of injury. I came back from that injury. That shoulder injury was, really the prime part of it. I was just booted for my ankle, just try to tighten things up. I came back, trained the summer, was getting back into it. And then I actually blew out my other shoulder that Christmas. So I raced maybe 3 races, blew out my other shoulder, came back from that injury, skiing in May, skied 3 days and broke my right ankle. And then had two surgeries on that ankle. And so it's just, like the next 3 years after Vancouver were just a total beatdown, where I was in a constant cycle where I try to come back. I was maybe trying to come back too early or too aggressively, and would get re-injured. And really that led me up to the Sochi games. I leading into Sochi, I'd had a relatively healthy year, I guess you would say. And, it was tough. It was definitely one of the more interesting times in my life where I was considering whether or not I was that interested in ski racing anymore, because it just felt like I was never getting over the hump where I would get the breaks that I needed on the right side.
And that's just going all out, right? You get injured because you're just going super fast, right? You're on the line.
Yeah. And in particular, the way that I skied, I was an intensity skier, and I was a very physical skier. So anytime that I had an injury, I try to mentally get through it, but it took a lot to overcome that, just because everything for me, when I was at my best, everything had to be perfect, physically and mentally. There's other guys that they don't care. They're able to ski through a physical injury because it's not so much part of their style. For me, I had to be strong. I had to be feeling physically good, all those things. And so I struggle with it a lot. It definitely, I watch other athletes and they come back from injuries really quickly, and I have a ton of respect for them. That was not the case for me, certainly.
Yeah. Tough 3 years. Well, then 2014 came along. Tell us about the Sochi Olympics. Bodie Miller was winning and you edged him at the end. Tell us about it. That was just even probably more remarkable maybe than the first time.
Yeah, really was, and there was a lot of buildup into that games where I hadn't put through any really strong results. I'd had, glimmers of fast skiing here and there. And, I basically was fast enough to get on the team. But that was it. And, I came into that particular race, or if I back up a couple of weeks, I found a pair of skis that were Bodie's that he wasn't using anymore. And I liked him a lot. And so,
you used his skis actually in the race?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So we shared it. We shared a serviceman, and the guy who tunes our skis and gets our equipment ready. So we shared it. Yeah. We both used that same resource. And I said, I want a stiffer pair of skis. So they said, okay, here's 2 pairs of Bodie's, give them a try if you like them. And I liked them a lot. training before the games with Ted Ligety in Austria. I said, okay, like what I'm doing right now is not working. So let's switch something up. And I was faster on them. I felt more comfortable, and I went into the games and I super, super high on my program. And then kind of the converse of what happened in Vancouver, where I drew a good number and I knew that the weather was going to be crappy. It's going to be hot. The course was going to slow down. I literally drew the second to worst number that I could.
I saw that.
So, at the time I thought that was it. It was all done, and maybe I could get a top 10, but just, I didn't think that there was any way that the course was going to be fast enough that I could overcome that. And in a certain way, that I think that allowed me to mentally say, all right, let's go. Who cares? Let's just stick to the plan. Let's literally ski the course. And, there's a moment going into that race where, as I was kicking out of the gate, I had this plan in my head that I'm going to go into this first pitch. I'm going to put my foot on the blue dye line that they have. And I'm going to ski down the pitch as hard as I can. And I remember skating across towards that blue line, and all the tracks were going, maybe 3 or 4 feet above that going into that first pitch. And I almost followed him. And I said to myself, I am not going to respect myself if I don't at least stick to my plan this one time when I'm actually feeling pretty good about where my program is and how I'm, my confidence and my mentality. If I deviate from the plan, I'm going to be mad. So I stuck my foot on the line like I had said I was going to. I dove into the pitch. I skied by far the most aggressive line. And really that's what the part of the course that I've made all my time. And then I kind of bled it all the way down to the point where I ended up just a little bit behind Shadow Jansrud.
You led every split, if I was correct, in that race till the last split, correct? So you
right.
were winning the race.
And that is where the snow had really transformed down there. It turned to total mush. And that's, I'm not blaming anything, but I had a couple 10th lead going into that last section, and it dissipated quickly. So,
hey, those other guys should have followed the blue line too. I guess that's a great idea. Pretty amazing.
At least I did. So
exactly. What did Bodie think about your run after on his skis? Did he ever say anything about that or no?
Yeah, he did. He was psyched for me. He was probably one of my biggest advocates as a racer. I mean, he was awesome. He was literally, one of the best teammates anybody could ask for, just because like the ski thing. I mean, he was so generous with not only sharing any of his insight, but obviously sharing his equipment, sharing his knowledge. I mean, he was an incredible guy to be around, and, an incredible guy to chase, because he was fast, but two, he had a different way of thinking about things. So it forced you to get outside of the normal thinking and gets outside of your normal box and say, okay, maybe if I tweak this, if I change this, it's not the way that people do it, but watching Bodie be successful doing things the way that people don't do things, it was inspiring. It was cool.
Yeah, amazing, simply amazing. Andrea, we're going to be right back here. Anyone with any questions, listeners out there, always feel free to give me a call. You can call me at 518-255-8854, or you can always email me at edgardner@cutterco.com on any questions about your portfolio investments. We'll be right back with Money Nation.
All opinions expressed by Ed Gardner and or his guests on the Money Nation show are solely Ed Gardner's and or his guests' opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Cutter & Company or any of their affiliates. You should not treat any opinion expressed by Ed Gardner and or guests as a specific inducement to make a particular investment or follow a particular strategy, but only in as an expression of their opinion. Ed Gardner's and his guests' opinions are based on information he considers reliable, but neither Cutter & Company nor affiliates and or subsidies warrant its completeness or accuracy, and it should not be relied upon as such. Always talk to your financial advisor before making such decisions.
Welcome back to Money Nation. Andrew, there's an article out there that I saw. It's a little dated, 2014, but talks about the top 5 U.S. skiers of all time, and you're number 5. You got some great company there. You got Bodie Miller, Ted Ligety, you got Tommy Moe, and Phil Mayer. And that's a pretty amazing group of people to be, grouped with. What do you tell us about that? And that's pretty amazing to have 2 medals in the Olympics.
Yeah. So it's like anything. It depends on how you measure it, right? It's what metrics you're using to determine. But, definitely, from all kidding aside, that from the Olympic side of it, I've been very fortunate to have the success I did at the Olympics. I had good success on the World Cup. I'd always wished that I had more success. And I did have, for the 2016, 2017 seasons, those were really good seasons for me.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was cool because I was actually knocking on the door year after year, for consistently, week after week. But, I'll absolutely take it that I can fit into that rarefied group of skiers, Phil Mayer, Tommy Moe, Ted, Bodie.
Quite an honor.
I'll hang on to that for sure.
Pretty amazing.
If you measured it differently, I would be further down on the list, though, I guess.
Well, we're going to go with the Olympic medal, since that's the cream de cream.
Yeah.
Have you seen many other athletes like yourself, who have really pulled off a big, shocking whim? I mean, there's been some women who've done pretty well. I remember Diane Rolfe. She got when she's 17 years old, she won a World Cup, I believe, at Lake Placid, and then she won an Olympic medal. There was the top U.S. woman skier I found. I never knew about this woman. If you ever heard of her, Andrea Mead Lawrence. She's from Vermont back in the 50s. At 15 years old, I believe, she did her first St. Moritz, finished 8th. And then at 52 is like a 19-year-old or 18-year-old. She won 2 gold. Yeah. Which is amazing at that young age in Oslo. And the most amazing thing, though, is she went back again in 56. But between 52 and 56, she had 3 babies, and then went back to the Olympics again and got like 6. I think that's pretty amazing. What do you think about that? That
is incredible. Yeah, that's, I'd say that the U.S. in general has a long tradition of overperforming at the Olympics. Just in, that's kind of like, you even look at Tommy Moe, he had an amazing career, but his Olympic success was much better than his World Cup success. And, you mentioned Diane Roth, and her Olympic success was better than her World Cup success. And, it kind of goes on and on. We tend to have, I don't know if it's just the Olympics are such they're not a US institution, obviously, but they're something there's such an emphasis on in the US that I think it sometimes gives us as athletes something else to kind of strive towards. It's not just kind of that niche group of people that's watching and cheering. It's everybody's watching and cheering. Everybody in the US, they don't care what the sport is. It doesn't matter if there's somebody in the US that's competing, they're going to put down what they do and cheer. And I think, as weird as it sounds, there's some part of that brings US athletes to a different level at the Olympics.
Amazing. You said there was another skier, Czech skier, did real well. He wasn't expected to do well last year.
It was actually a woman skier in Pyeongchang. Yeah, she started, I think she started 29, I believe, in Pyeongchang, which is the same bib that I had in Sochi. And she actually won from 29th. And amazing. Obviously I didn't win, but
You're close. Let's shift it over to the Mirror Lake Inn. Let's check about the ski industry, the vacation industry in Lake Placid. This has been an interesting year. I ski at Gorham. I love Whiteface is my favorite mountain. I used to live in Lake Placid right down the street from you. We're actually on the same street where you lived a couple of years ago. So we're kind of neighbors, but I love the Whiteface. But I skied a lot of Gore this year because we stay in Lake George, it was a little closer. And it was very busy. The weekdays were crowded. The weekends were crowded. You couldn't even get a ski pass this year. You couldn't even buy day tickets for like several weeks during the holidays. I talked to a good friend of mine, Pat Ledger, up in Lake Placid. Great skier. He was in the World Cup telemark for about 8 years. He told me, Ed, he goes, it's never been this crowded in the weekdays. Why is it just because people are working from home? Why was the skiing so crowded this year? And tell us about how your Mirror Lake Inn did this year and the ski industry up in Lake Placid.
Yeah. We've had of being in the resort business, the vacation business, obviously coming out of COVID or out of the spring last year, we actually shut down the hotel for 2 months, just to really assess everything and figure out what's going on. And from the time that we opened up last summer all the way through until now, we've seen what we would call unprecedented business, just levels of business that we had never seen before. And I think there's a number of factors that, one, it's a drive-to market. We've been really fortunate up here with the amount of COVID that we've had. It's been very low. There haven't been a lot of businesses that have had to shut down, and it's been really positive. It's been a positive community-wide effort to do the right things to make sure that everything keeps running, not just a single business, but everybody understands that if my restaurant closes, that affects how your hotel is going to run. And so the whole ecosystem's been great. And I feel like the town's banded together really well to make sure that everything keeps running. So we've been very fortunate. It's been challenging. Obviously, we've had to rethink a lot of what we do operationally and rethink our business model a little bit, but we've gone through it. And then going into the winter, it was another summer was busy, but we didn't know once things shifted from outdoor activities to indoor activities, or more indoor time, I guess, skiing is an outdoor activity, how that shift was going to affect us. And again, it was very busy. And it was interesting, we actually, because of the way that they restricted tickets, we saw less business on the weekends, slightly less, but much more business midweek. So rather than kind of that midweek lull and weekend spikes, it was sort of just a slow burn all winter. And that's, I think that the whole town experienced that because, like you were saying, people have more flexibility when they travel. They don't necessarily need to be here on a weekend. If they're working remotely, they can, if they can only get tickets on a Monday and Tuesday, they can make that work with
right
doing some work before and doing some work after, but still getting out and skiing 6 hours in the middle of the day.
How the bookings look for the spring and the summer? You guys, I imagine you're very booked. You got one of the nicest places in Lake Placid.
Yeah, knock on wood, things are looking really good. You know, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the events, you know, the big horse show events and things like that. But yeah, socially, it looks like town's going to be busy again. It's been an interesting shift just demographically up here, with a lot of people moving from New York City, at least living up here part-time. You know, the real estate market's been crazy, like so many places that are kind of metropolitan adjacent or somewhat adjacent. So it's been nuts. And so the people that have come up here, I think, have brought a whole new crowd and a different crowd. So it's become a popular place, and, you know, we hope obviously that continues, but yeah, no, June, July, August, they're all looking very good.
Good luck. I think it's going to be a great summer. I think both in Lake Placid, Lake George are going to do very well. I got to tell you that, you know, you were on Olympic downhill. You know, I was on the Olympic downhill once too. Do you know that?
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, not very many people have skied on Olympic downhill course, and I didn't really ski down it, but I skied across it when I was 15 years old in Lake Placid prior to the Olympics. The downhill course went right down Lake Placid and to Whiteface, and I had to get across the course. So there was a rope blocking it off. They weren't skiing or anything. So I cut across it to get across the other side to hit a different trail. And when I was skiing across it, I started to slide down it was solid ice. I mean, not little icy. I mean, like an ice skating rink, like a hockey rink. And that's when I realized that's why these guys go so fast. It is literally an ice skating rink on the mountain. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's actually by design. The worst thing for a course is for soft snow, just because, you know, one person goes down, they put a rut in, the next person goes down, they put a deeper rut in. Ice is resilient. You know, it breaks down a little bit, but you gotta, you know, especially in, you know, when you think of downhill, where you have training runs, so everybody goes down it one day. Usually you have a second training run, everybody goes down it again, and then you have the race. So they need us, or we, you know, not me, they, I guess now, I still say we, but there needs to be a surface that can hold up that's not only consistent for the safety aspect of it, but consistent for, you know, really the competitive nature of it. If there was soft snow, the first person would have such an advantage that nobody would ever catch them.
Do they put water on the course? How do they get it to be like ice like that?
Yeah, they'll usually, you know, they'll take one of the snow cats and till all the snow up, you know, just make it loose, spray it down with the hose, groom it out, and then usually spray it down again, or groom it out. And then actually they have these, they're called injection bars, but it's basically a big long metal pipe with a bunch of nozzles, and they just shove it into the ground and inject water directly into the snow, and it kind of bubbles up to the top and creates I mean, that's the really, really slick ice that they make.
I couldn't realize that it was so hard. It was like an ice skating rink. Hey, tell us about your Make-A-Wish. I saw you're going to be skiing down all the 46 high peaks. You're going to climb up in the winter and ski them down. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's been a cool project. We did, backtracking a couple of years pre-COVID. We called it Ski for Wishes. So I'm a board member on the Make-A-Wish Northeastern New York, and we wanted to do an event at Whiteface, where we did kind of a fun race and a ski day with me and kind of like a ski clinic. So in 2019, that was the inaugural event, and we had planned to do it in 2020, but it was March 16th, 2020 was the date, and everything shut down on March 15th. So that the event got scrapped the second year. And so this fall, I started thinking about it and decided that I wanted to do something that I hadn't done before. And so I talked to the people at Make-A-Wish, and we thought maybe it'd be an interesting challenge. So I started picking away at it. But yeah, I mean, the concept is to ski all 46 high peaks.
Do you hike up all the way to the top? and then
yeah. So I have skins on my skis. So, like a fabric that you put on the bottom of your skis that you can basically hike up with your skis on your feet, and then try to find a route down, which is somewhat challenging in the Adirondacks because there's a lot of trees and some slides. So that makes it easier sometimes, but yeah,
that's amazing. I mean, it's hard enough to hike up those mountains with hiking boots on. To just skin up them, that seems pretty crazy.
It's almost easier in the winter because once the snow's in, it creates a flat platform. You don't have to go up and over all the rocks. You just, it was fun. It was challenging, but
the winter 46ers, they're post hauling every time they dig to put their foot in the ground, right? So maybe the skis would be a little easier, right? How many more are you going to do?
So I've done 21. So I've got 25.
You got to do it by next year.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get it done. We had a kid a couple weeks or about a month, or actually exactly a month ago. So that sort of put a hard stop on my skiing this year. Thank you.
You gonna get him on skis in the next 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, he'll be probably, his two older sisters both ski. They're 5 and 2.5. So I would imagine in another year or two he will be out there as well.
Fantastic. Andrew, thank you very much for being with us here. Hopefully you come back and we'll talk again in the future.
Absolutely.
And have a great spring and a great summer. Thanks again.
Yeah, same to you. Thanks for having me.
Remember, listeners, any questions about your portfolio or investments at all, always feel free to give me a call back at 518-255-8854, or you can email me always at edgardner@cutterco.com. Thanks everyone for listening to Money Nation. Have a good day.